Hello everyone, thank you for being here. I'm very excited to be back at Develop. My name is Mario. I'm a tech evangelist at Amazon Digital Apps and Game Services. And I'm here to talk to you about esports, and in particular about Game On. Why am I here talking to you about this? Mainly because my job is to work with the developer community in Europe and get you guys up to speed on what we're doing at Amazon. But there is another more interesting reason, and I will say that I was bound to work with game developers because my name is Mario and my dad's name is Luigi. So I would say it was probably written in stars that I would be here talking to game developers. But anyway, let's jump on it and start talking about competition. So I think that today in particular is a pretty good day to talk about competition given what's going on in the world of football, for example. So again, let's think about football. Think about the World Cup that is going on. All of us are, in particular the football fans, are really invested in what's going on. So this afternoon we will gather in a room and cheer for England. And you are, when it comes to things like competition, you are emotionally invested. You want your team to win. And in particular, that becomes even more important if you are the player. In this case, if you're a football player, you really want to put in the extra effort to make your team win. But as game developers, what does this mean and why is it important? Why is competition important? Because competition brings to passionate players. And passionate players are the one that we want in our games. We want players that spend more time and possibly more money in our games. So, but how do we get these type of players? How do we get the normal players to the status of power users, of people which are not just playing the game, but really emotionally invested in the game? One way of doing this is competition. So it was kind of interesting how we started thinking about Game On. So at Amazon, as you can imagine, we do a lot of events. In particular, my team is responsible for all the Amazon devices out there, including tablets and Fire TV. And we showcase these devices in a lot of events. What happened was that we had a lot of people coming to our booths and start playing against each other on games that were not actually meant to be multiplayer even. They were playing sometimes casual games, things like Crossy Road, for example, against each other, trying to compete and beat each other's scores. So we start thinking that maybe competitive gameplay and something like esports is not something that retains to the AAA big games, but can be applied pretty much to any game. And we actually then wanted to street test this, and we did with Champions of Fire.
Last 2 seconds. It's over. Fox is your Amazon Champions of Fire Invitational.
So with Champions of Fire, which was a esports event, in-person event dedicated to mobile games, we demonstrated that even mobile games, even mobile casual games, can be a good fit for competitive gameplay and for esports at the end. So we really thought it was something there, something that we really wanted to make available not just to the big players, but to every game developer. And this thing is a Game On. So what is Game On? Game On is a set of flexible APIs that allows any game developer to build cross-platform competition, add them to their games, and even award in-game prizes or even physical prizes fulfilled and shipped by Amazon. So what are the three core pillars of Game On? The first one is scale. So Game On is built on top of AWS, Amazon Web Services. The guys at AWS know a couple things about scaling up services, so you don't have to worry about the numbers of players you have because Game On is going to scale with the growth. allows you for organic acquisition. So you as a developer, of course, will bring in more players, but the added functionalities of competitive gameplay that Game On allows you to add will allow you to organically maintain more users. And the fact that you can build tournaments and you can build leaderboards will also grant you additional engagement, which is also boosted by the fact that Game On itself can deploy physical prizes or digital prizes. So you'll see in a second, it's very, very easy to do. So let's start to look into it and look at what are all the components of Game On and what you can actually do with it. So first of all, Game On is an API, meaning that we don't provide an SDK for it, we don't provide plugins, it's just a pure RESTful API. Meaning that basically it doesn't matter, first of all, which platform you're developing on, if it's on PC, on mobile, on console, it's gonna work everywhere. Even if you're building an AR game, a VR game, even possibly an Alexa voice game, basically if the platform that you're using, if the system that you're using is capable of making an HTTPS call, you can use Game On. And also allows you to build tournaments and leaderboards which are cross-platform. So for example, you can have players on PC compete for the same tournament and for the same prize with someone on console or even on mobile. And again, we have full documentation on the RESTful API. It's very easy to integrate. And again, and the concept is basically not to lock you with a specific OS, a specific piece of software, but you can use Game On pretty much everywhere you want. An example of this is one of our launch partners, Game Insight, integrated Game On in their game survival arena, which works both on desktop and on mobile, and players from both worlds could compete for the same prizes. Competitions. So what kind of competitive elements can you add to get through Game On? So first of all, you can create leaderboards, which is very, very classic way of providing a hierarchical leaderboard, or leagues. You can also rank players by any metric. You define what is the metric that brings the winner to the leaderboards. You can set the number of attempts. So for example, you can say you can play for this tournament and you only have 3 attempts to put down your best score, for example. You can invite winners to multiple successive rounds as well. And you can also schedule single or recurring tournaments. If you've ever been dealing with live ops of tournaments, you know how painful could it be to reschedule tournaments and to create a set of tournaments. And you will see in a second, we provide an entire dashboard that allows for very easy management of these tournaments. So for one of our other launch partners at GDC, Your Club by Eden Games, they were really happy about Game On, because basically they were looking for a way to add competitive gameplay and to run tournaments, and they just leveraged Game On instead of building it from scratch. Entry requirements is also very, very interesting. It allows you to do pretty interesting tournaments. So, for example, you can build tournaments and define entry location based on GPS. So, for example, we could have built a tournament just for Develop Brighton, running just for the 3 days of the conference. How do you do that? You will see in a second in more detail, but the idea is you define a specific point, set up a GPS-based point, and you set up a radius, and then you're good to go. Or you can even add custom criteria. For example, you could say, show this tournament only to the players who have the VIP tag enabled. Or I want to create a tournament just for the players who have this specific weapon. So what would it look like, for example, the request that you would put down if you were to build, for example, a GPS-based entry requirement? We provide, along with the console, we also provide an API, an admin API that allows you to define these entry requirements. So in this case, for example, let's say they want to create a GPS-based entry requirement for the greater Seattle area. Just put down name and description, which is something that you can then display to the user. The type, GPS, and the fact that it's based on GPS coordinates. And then you add permitted areas. You can even add multiple permitted areas if you want. In this case, we add one GPS coordinates-based entry requirement with just latitude and longitude. And then we pass the radius. In this case is 10, and then the units, you can put, in this case we put kilometers, you can put pretty much any kind of unit. Maybe not centimeters, that's not a great idea, but as you can see, it's basically just like a few lines of code. You package this in your API call in the body, and you send this, and you can then set your own custom requirements. Another example is what I said before. What if you want to set up a tournament for someone who is just a VIP? Again, name and description, player is VIP. The type, value. So in our game, we will have a specific value that identifies a player as VIP. Which is status, and the value here is VIP. And again, this is something that you define at all. You can even add multiple key value entries. Another one is a range, for example. So let's say that, for example, instead of having the VIPs, which are the big players, you want to create a tournament to nurture the entry-level players, the newcomers. So let's say that, for example, you are able in your game to distinguish a league of players between 0 and 10. Let's say that those are your entry-level players. You can just define a range. In this case, is a league instead of being a normal leaderboard. And you set a high and a low value. And then pretty much everyone which is within that range will be able to see that specific tournament. One example of the use of these custom entry requirements has been done by Power Rangers Legacy Wars. When we launched Game On at GDC, they created a tournament that was geolocalized just for the GDC conference area, and people were competing for physical prizes that were shipped and fulfilled by Amazon. Another cool feature that Game On allows you to do is not something that you have to do, is for your game to add, if you want, is user-generated competitions. So you as a developer can define tournament, but you can also allow your users to define custom tournaments. So someone could, for example, create a tournament for their family. Let's say I want to play against my family, and this is set up a tournament based on password, for example, or based on location. Again, pretty much all the entry requirements that you saw before can be allowed also for the user-generated competitions. The only thing that is not possible to do through user-generated competition is to award prizes, as you can imagine. But what is the value in user-generated competition? Yes, of course, the value is that you can create a match with your family, like I said before. But what does it mean, for example, for streamers? For the big influencers? It could mean that they could build a tournament for their followers and say, you know, I'm playing this game which integrates Game On. If you want to compete against me, here's the password to access my tournament. Or they can activate a tournament just based on a specific location. If they are at a conference like this, they could do that. So think about user-generated competition as an additional way to bring more engagement. And if you're already working with influencers, it's a great way for them to bring more views. And finally, last but not least, prizes. So there are two type of prizes that you can guarantee. The first one is digital prizes, and this is available for everyone. So you can award in-game prizes. Let's say, for example, to the person that, to the winner of this tournament, the winner of this tournament will unlock this specific weapon. So you define, again, some custom variables in the tournament, and when the winner wins a specific prize, he gets a specific call, and then it's up to your game to release a specific item. But you can use the Game On API to verify if the user is if a specific winner is entitled to a specific item and fulfill it to him if it makes sense. And Real World right now is available only to US customers. Meaning that you as a developer can purchase prizes and ship them to winners of Game On tournaments. Right now, as I said, available in the US only, but this doesn't mean that you as a developer can leverage this. Right now, this is something that we offer to some partners. So if you're interested, please reach out to us. Management of Game On. How do you manage the tournaments? So management of tournaments can be done, as I said before, via the so-called admin API, which has calls which are very similar to the rest of the normal tournament management API. Or can be done via a console. So if you're familiar with the Amazon Developer Console, this is actually separated from the Amazon Developer Console. You will still need an Amazon Developer account to use it, but it's free to register, and also the usage of the console is free as well. So the console is actually designed in a way that is optimized to be used not necessarily by developers. So you could have let's say a live ops manager sitting down, working just with the console, creating tournaments and adding new variables, new conditions, and they don't need to be coders or developers to do that. It's a very simple UI that allows you to create tournaments. So an example, let's say they want to do the same thing that we did before via the API. Here in this case, you can add an entry requirement. We selected we want to add a geographic-based parameter. So we select Greater Seattle area. And then you can also add custom parameters. In this case, for example, let's say that we want to make this, run this only over the weekend, and just for 10 weekends in a row. You can set up everything through the UI. You set for 1 week, only days of the week, Saturday and Sunday, and then that it ends. You can also set the tournament to end on a specific date or run after 10 occurrences. It could be 10 days, 10 weeks, whatever you want. So again, if you know what would it require to do, if you have to implement it yourself, think about how much easier it is to do through a simple UI like this. And finally, again, you create the tournament in this case, and you can add multiple entry requirements. So in this case, for example, you have something that runs in the Greater Seattle area, and the player needs to be a VIP to access that specific tournament. So you can go very granular and mix and match different types of players together. You can even define, I don't know, like you can set, I want this tournament just to show on iOS and not on Android. I want this to run only on PS4 and not on Xbox. Up to you how you want to mix and match these features. How much does it cost, you would ask me? All right, so in order to work with Game On, which is at the end is a service for you to build competitive gaming, we had to think about a specific pricing model for it. So the pricing model behind Game On is based on plays. So a single play is defined when a player submits a score through the API. So every time a score is registered against Game On, that counts as a single play. The first 35,000 plays per month are free. If you go over that, you only pay for what you use, and is a third of a penny for each recorded score. Keep in mind that all the other API calls, let's say if you have to fetch a leaderboard, if you have to fetch tournaments, if you have to submit tournaments, everything else, that is free, completely free. So I'm just to wrap it up a little bit. So we had a lot of launch partners for Game On, and more are coming on board in the next months. But the idea is that we don't just want the big players out there, we want everyone to start playing with Game On. We're talking with Eden Games, and they've been one of the early launch partners, and they said that for them it took 4 weeks at start to fully integrate Game On, but if they were to do it now, they've been kind of a guinea pig for us, but if they were to do it now, it will probably take around 10 days, 2 weeks tops. And again, you can get an API get an API key completely for free and start playing with it. And again, you have the 35,000 plays per month, which is a quite generous amount of plays for you to kickstart. All right, so we saw Game On cross-platform API allows you for competition, leaderboards, and leagues, allows for user-generated competitions, allows you to deliver rewards, both physical and digital, and we also provide you a Game On console to do all the management of the tournaments. We have a dedicated developer portal for Game On with all the documentation that you need, the links to access the Game On console and to retrieve your API key, full tech documentation, and that is available at developer.amazon.com/GameOn. And there is also dedicated online support. We have a team at Amazon which is dedicated to provide support through forum or if you have any question related to Game On. If you want to know how to implement competitive gameplay into your game, you can. There is a tutorial on YouTube by my colleague Peter Heinrich that you might know already, and this video covers the whole setup and also includes some tips about integrating Game On in Unity specifically. At the end, I just want to say that, yes, of course, it's important to get more players, but Game On is all about bringing the joy of competitive gaming to everyone on every platform. And that's what you guys hopefully should be doing with Game On. So I pretty much finished, so thank you very much. And I think we have about a few minutes for, all right, okay, we do have a few minutes.